Watch me ride.
Hey everybody, so I'm still trying out the new camera. Yeah, okay, it's GTA, alright. Look, I've got a new bike. And I got a drone as well, see, so we can actually see ourselves from further back. As you may guessed, I can't ride a lot at the moment, so I'm like, well, I can do vlogs on a bike still, but it's just, you know, it's in GTA. But of course it does mean that I can do wheelies. Oh, right, okay. Anyway, I do have a subject to talk about. I recently did a video, watch it mate, I was lucky. I recently did a video talking about Chinese versus Japanese bikes, and this isn't actually about Chinese versus Japanese, it's more to do with sort of this paradox that seems to come around. So people talk about Japanese bikes being good and Chinese bikes being bad. Now, what makes a Chinese bike and what makes a bike a Japanese bike? Because, like the Honda CB125F, I think it is a Wu Yang Honda built in China. So people say that's a Japanese bike, even though it's built in China. Whereas people will always call a Lex Moto a Chinese bike, even though, yes, it's built in China, but it's sold only in the UK. So on the same grounds that a Wu Yang Honda is a Japanese bike, then a Lex Moto is an English bike. What makes a bike, in your opinion, of a nationality? You know, is it there is Honda, and then there's Wu Yang Honda? And because Lex Moto's bikes are made in different factories, is, say, for instance, the LXR a Zhongshan Lex Moto, or is it a Lex Moto? You see, it's a bit of a paradox between, if people think it's good, they say, oh, it's Japanese, even if it's built in China, but then they'll say that something built in China is bad. So you get people saying, oh, I wouldn't buy this Chinese piece of rubbish, I'd rather get a Japanese bike that's still made in China. So how is that Japanese? It's just interesting. Just taking a green laning trip. I think what a lot of people might say is, well, the Japanese bikes are built to a Japanese standard, and thus that makes them Japanese, and a Chinese bike is built to Chinese standards, and so that's not good. So if Lex Moto choose the standards of which they're made to, and they go and check these facts in the factories before having things taken from them, does that mean that it's UK quality control, if you know what I mean? It's just very odd. Oh yes, let's go jump up the other side. Up, no, up. like for instance, you know, KTM. People consider KTM to be an Austrian bike, even though they're made in India. So is KTM an Indian bike, or is that like an Indian KTM? Is it different? You know, because with Chinese bikes, for instance, like Lex Motos, there is some variation in quality between the bike models because they don't come from one central factory, they come from different factories. Now, some of these factories do stuff for big brands, some of them just do their own things, but people say they're small companies. It's like Zhongshan is absolutely huge. They make so many more bikes than the big brands, I think, because most of them are sold over that way. I have to say, this has got good grip for dirt roads. It's like being on the island. Come on. No!
It's just a possession. Let it go. Now!
I've always wondered if you drove one of these to a lake, whether you could drive the boat there. I'm going to find out. While I continue my conversation, you see, while I was thinking of all of this, you know, just my mind was playing down the lines of thinking about manufacturer countries and what country classes what from where. And another thing to actually say about the Chinese thing is that the distances between some of these factories is the equivalent distance, I mean, within China, is the equivalent distance as England to Germany. So does that make a difference? You know, different areas, different economies, better off areas, better factories. So is that something that should be taken into consideration? You know, where is something from? Well, we are floating. Get out. I think the answer is going to be yes. Oh, problem's getting off the trailer. It's dragging. Oh, would you look at that? It actually works, I didn't know that. Anyway, back to my point, because this is not what my point's about. Okay, so while I was doing all the thinking, as I say, about all the different brands where things come from, that view's going to get annoying. I was thinking, okay, so what do we respect China for making? You know, because people say, well, they make complete rubbish, but they do make some good things. Electronics is probably something that they're known for making well. Not in all cases, because, you know, a lot of the eBay cheap stuff comes from China, and it's dangerous in some cases, in other cases it's just a bit subpar. But they do make good things, we know they do. Like, you know, a lot of the smartphones are made out in China and places like that, so they have the ability to make things to unbelievable quality. So I was thinking, well, electric bikes, obviously that's the way things are going to go in the future. There's no way of getting around it. Petrol cars are going to be phased out sooner or later. Well, the date's already been set, isn't it? It's like 30 years away or something. Or is it less? It's 2040, I can't remember. But I don't know how that affects motorcycles, but obviously things are going to go electric, and electric motorcycles are getting better and better, and as the ranges improve, and battery particularly, the ability of the battery to hold enough charge to be of a usable amount, nailed it, they're going to take over. And it's like, well, then if China start making electric motorcycles, are those then going to be considered to be very good because they have a really good background in electronics and stuff like that? Just wondering. And finally, you see me wheeling and crashing into a cactus over a rock. Well, there you go. I'm going to leave this one here. If you want to discuss or debate or argue about Japanese versus Chinese, go ahead. I don't mind. I have a couple of videos back. That is what that's for. This one is more talking about if something like, you know, we say Yamaha is made in India, do we consider that an Indian Yamaha, or is it still just a Yamaha? And can we consider Lexmoto to be an English brand based on the fact that, yes, they are made in China, but they're sold in the UK, so people can consider that a UK brand in the same way that if you said a Japanese bike, people would, like a Honda that's made in India, they'd say it was still Japanese. I think you get what I'm talking about. Anyway, thank you very much for everyone who's supporting me at the moment. Obviously, I can ride bikes in a game much easier than I can in real life with my back at the moment. Thank you for the support. I'm really, really appreciative of it. And I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. Woohoo! Ah, Kevy, what you done? If you enjoyed this video and the other content on the channel, please consider following the links in the description to show your support.